Keynote. Hope you're enjoying that meal. This afternoon's keynote will be Ms. Lauren Knausenberger, Air Force Chief Information Officer. You can find her biography in the TechNet app, so please refer to that. Ms. Knausenberger? Yep. If you have any questions for her, please email them to this address on the screen, and they'll be provided to her. Please join me in giving her a warm welcome to the stage.
All right. Good afternoon. How's everyone doing? Or I guess here we're supposed to say aloha. All right. You guys still have it. So this is my second trip out to the Pacific in about a month. And my last trip, I got to visit with a couple of folks I got to see again here. Ran around Osan and Kunsan in Korea, over Anderson at Guam, Yokota in Japan. Got a pretty good tour of the theater. And I want to show you a couple pictures that I took. So I'm glad that you guys laughed at that. So it is funny, and it's also not funny a little bit, because there are some things that I saw that did resemble this a little bit. The good news is we will finally be sundowning our TDM switches. So that's exciting. That is applause-worthy. And have thrown a good amount of money in fiscal year 23 toward doing so, which will also allow us to create some trade space to invest in additional modernization. So that was pretty exciting. We also were able to throw away a bunch of computers that the 1990s and 2000s wanted back. That was also very exciting. I'm sure that you all have heard about hashtag #FixMyComputer, and actually some pretty good progress before and after, of course, chatting through that hashtag. But end of year this year, we made a huge push. Every place that I went, folks were getting approved for millions of dollars worth of UFers to refresh their network equipment. So that was actually quite exciting. Now, I will share too, we always hear about the tyranny of distance. I sort of understood the tyranny of distance. When I was planning for my trip, folks were saying, hey, why don't we stop by Hawaii? Why don't we stop by Alaska? We'll just drop by Guam. We talk about it as if we're just kind of in the neighborhood, and we're just going to stop by, see if our neighbors have a cup of sugar. So going even within theater, I realized, wow, it is a full day to get to Guam. It is 12 hours if you were leaving from Korea. The Pacific is huge. I knew it. I now really know it and really felt it. There's also the proximity that we are to the threat. I was in Japan the first time the North Koreans started shooting at us, and the Japanese had shelter-in-place deals. We're pretty close. We're still seeing it with North and South Korea right now. We know kind of what is the ring of, where the barrage of missiles will hit if we go into conflict. So we are very, very close, but we are very, very distributed. And that really means even more so that we have to have an integrated ConOps. We have to have all of the data that we need to speed our decision cycle, to speed our kill chain faster than we ever have before. And the good news is we have the right people working this problem. We have the right plan for this problem. We have the right warfighters already doing this every day, even with the things that they have today. I'll share a little bit more before I go into that, just briefly with you about the other things that I saw on my trip, and kind of what we're doing to get after them. So I saw cable dogs in Guam, the result of their efforts to pull fiber literally through the jungle. I saw the data center in the World War II bread factory. Our airmen and guardians are doing incredible things despite a number of decades of not investing. Now, the good news is that I am seeing a huge, huge cultural shift in DoD that has been supported by support for the POM. We can't yet publicly share numbers for the fiscal year 24 POM, but I will say that we definitely did some dancing in the CIO's office when we saw the numbers. It is really exciting how much we will be investing in this community. Things are better this year too. We'll be able to get some good things done. But fiscal year 24 is when we really get to go to production on things like on certain aspects of zero trust, and get some real momentum in our technical modernization. So all goodness there. So we know the strategic environment that we need. We know that we need to have one warfighting environment where we can fight with our joint partners and our allies. We know that we have to be able to get data from anywhere to anywhere very, very quickly. I think we all know in this room also that technology is usually not the problem. We find ways to get into our own way. We have a lot of policy things that we still have to work through. But we have the right team to get after it. So these are a couple of things that are top of mind for me as we move toward that future. Convergence is huge. I'll chat a little bit later about our tech roadmap, but this is the first time that I have seen communities across multiple levels of classification, across multiple networks, converging and moving forward on things that will hit production within the next year. And really want to give a shout out, especially to our partners here in PACAF, working well between the CIO, the A26, and the local technical experts here to really converge around dynamic targeting. And I'm really excited to see where we go with that. So I mentioned on the women's panel the other day, I think we were asked a question about objectives, and I said, hey, they're on the website. So these are the lines of effort that we are looking at that have been put out in the public strategy. We are not yet sure if we will publish the implementation plans, because the implementation plans, I think, do get a little bit classified and into CUI pretty quickly, but those are underway. And a lot of the folks in this room will probably be consulted on those at some point. But a lot of the things that you see here, it really comes down to, these aren't new things, but we are driving focus across our community. We're making sure that we are investing in the things that we need to drive. We're making sure that we pull our talent strategy behind them. And we're doing it in a concerted effort where we have folks in the room that understand, hey, this is how I contribute to this. So one thing that we're doing, for instance, with accelerating cloud adoption. So we can pat ourselves on the back for a moment, and we can say, hey, the Department of the Air Force has the world's largest enterprise cloud instantiation. That is true. That is great. It is not enough. We still have so many things that are all over the place. So why aren't we moving to the cloud faster? Well, part of it is that it's really hard still to get into the cloud. It takes too long. Our processes are still in the way. And it's really kind of a multifaceted issue. And so I've been really pleased over the past several months that we've had SAIC as our prime vendor, our PEO looking at the policy side, my team looking at the policy side, and our cloud service providers looking at, okay, we established Cloud One about 4 years ago. For the DoD, revolutionary at the time. But the world has changed since then. How do we bring in more automation? Why do we still need to have a manual ATO process on our way into a cloud environment that has enterprise ICAM, continuous monitoring, when we've already spent a lot of time and money refactoring to bring in these services, when we have world-class vendors and world-class continuous monitoring that are defending 500,000 cyber attacks a month in an automated manner? We can move faster there too. We can also move faster in the way that we assess. And so we do value our industry partnerships. We're really appreciating the insights that we're getting there right now. I've challenged them to go from our status quo of about 3 to 5 migrations a month to show me that we can do 100 in 3 months. We're calling it Race to Cloud One for that reason. And it's really not about how fast can we move 100 applications. It's really about when someone shows up to our front door and says, I need to shut down a data center, or I need to move this application to the cloud or this network to the cloud so that I don't have 100 people maintaining a training environment on my base that should be in the cloud. That when somebody shows up and they have that requirement, that we can move very, very quickly to meet that requirement, that it is cost effective, and that we are able to shut down and recoup some of those costs and invest them in the next thing. So pretty excited about that. The future of cybersecurity. There are a lot of things happening in this area. One of the big rocks that we are moving toward is how do we get to a global NOC, SOC, and GOC? I think I made this comment also during the women's panel. It's really crazy that we don't have one, but the reason that we don't today is that we have distributed operations, and everyone in theater has a little bit of a different architecture that they are defending. And so one of the things that I heard over and over again in my trip is, man, you know, we're past the international dateline. If we want support on a Monday, everybody's still surfing then. Nobody's at work. Like, somebody can put in a help desk ticket for me, but I'm not getting support on a Monday. You know, Tuesday, I've got a shot. That's not okay. You know, we have a concept that was put out for 24/7 operations a number of years ago. We have not achieved it. We have to double down. We have to figure out how we can get to global NOC, SOC, GOC. We are working through the censoring as we speak. We've gotten a huge down payment on that technology. And we're going to have to work through the cultural issues to help people understand that having one platform where we can tell the difference between, you know, the backhoe in Montgomery, Alabama, Chinese cyber attack, and blue on blue between, you know, 3 different units in DISA, we should be able to tell that pretty quick. And today, sometimes we have to second guess ourselves a little bit. But how do we do that without also having people know that they have some level of control over their destiny? If we know that there's a fight in PACAF, we can't be waiting for someone to show up on the East Coast to provide service. You have to be able to fight. And so that is another thing that we are wrestling with as well. Workforce, a huge number of efforts going on here. I will be very honest. Some of the conversations I've heard a number of times, and I have not been here that long. What I will say is a little bit different this time is that we have so much focus going into it at such a high level that I actually have a pretty high degree of faith that we're going to get there. We are leveraging authorities and coming up with plans to leverage authorities more than we have in the past. And actually, our secretary asked if he can get a digital U license the other day, which I thought was awesome, because he wants to make sure that all of our general officers have that foundational digital acumen to lead and be part of the conversation and understand exactly how all of this technology, all of the digital concepts and modern digital capabilities affect the warfighting mission. Our secretary is an engineer. He is incredibly technical. And I thought it was awesome that he wants to make sure that he is staying current. He wants to be an example. Now, General Raymond, he also retired this week. Folks that have heard me speak before, you might have heard me say that he was our first Python graduate on Digital U. Totally true. He was the first of a number of generals who code. I'm going to have to get General Saltzman in there, learning some Python too. But we are more than ever putting our money where our mouth is with making sure that people have access to digital skills. I got a commitment from the A1 that we're going to connect it to our A1 systems, which is great. And the secretary and the chief have been asking very consistently, how do I become less rigid in the way that people can move about the career fields? And the career field managers are looking at this. So I think that is all goodness. Portfolio management. So as a CIO, depending on what room I'm in, you have folks that are saying govern with an iron fist, and other people that are like, oh Lord, please pick what you govern with an iron fist, because that will be the best way to slow down innovation just in its tracks. And so it is always a challenge to find that balance. But our intent is to kill things as quickly as we can when we don't need them anymore. And DISA has been a great partnership in this. How many people remember Skyweb? Anybody? I heard a couple people. We're finally killing it. Hilariously, It's just such a great use case for sometimes culture, where as we're looking through, can we kill this thing? Most people are like, what is that? I haven't used that in a really long time. Didn't we transition to this other thing like 3 years ago? And then you have other people saying, yes, this is absolutely critical to my mission. I need to have it right now. And then as soon as we said, okay, you're the only ones that want it, you can pay the bill, we got out pretty quick. It was pretty good. But they also realized through that discussion, everybody else has gone over here. There's another solution. Let's shut this down. And so I will say that I'm looking for other targets. If you see something that needs to be zapped, please let me know. You have great perspective that, I don't always get to see from my perch. But definitely would like your thoughts on what we can kill so that we can invest in other things. We also have been diving very deep into our IT spend. And so the folks on the vendor side, if we're buying software from you, we're probably already in negotiations with you to come up with an enterprise license agreement. If we're not, we probably will be soon. And that's because, as a Department of the Air Force, part of our ITAS Wave 1 effort, which I hope will begin executing in January, I'll say a little prayer. One of our main things there is we will have one IT service management platform, and we will have one IT store. And in that IT store, you'll be able to see all of the things that the enterprise has already provided for you. You'll be able to see what's accredited. You'll be able to see what we're already paying for you. These are very foundational things that most corporations already have in place, but they are lacking across the DoD. And so we are going very quickly toward that path. The intent there is to make it even easier for us to give people the tools that they need to do their jobs, and to also get feedback from folks when, for instance, if Tableau is the visualization tool and that we choose for the enterprise, and you see something else that we need, having a feedback mechanism to say, hey, I also need this, and this community needs this. And we have a really great supporter in Honorable Kristen Jones, who just came over as our FM, coming straight out of industry, really taking a look at this and pounding the table for us that, yeah, we do need to provide enterprise tools. It's a lot cheaper to do so, and we need to equip our airmen. This is something you've been saying for years, but I see it happening and having increasing support for that. Core services. This is another one where, and there was an article that was, I think Defense One just wrote an article about this the other day, that the way that we have provisioned core services, we have gotten away, or maybe never had, modern SLAs and KPIs that tell people this is exactly what the standard is and help us to hold folks accountable. We do not have anywhere near close to 99.999 on our networks, including our battle networks. That's not okay. One of the constructs that we are working through as we move to ITAS is taking an inherently different approach to looking at those service level agreements and those KPIs, measuring them, and looking at them very, very publicly at the Pentagon, and also sharing some things publicly and throughout the community. And our secretary actually cares about these metrics. General Brown actually cares what the refresh rate is for endpoints in PACAF. That sounds crazy, but the reason that he cares about this is that we looked at our refresh rates, and the top two refresh rates were at USAFA and the Pentagon. Not a surprise. You have students coming through, they need a new machine. At the Pentagon, we have a lot of stars, I'm sure you've noticed. And people replace things quickly. You don't have a lot of machines from 2018 that don't meet the spec around the Pentagon. But our data has shown, and this is common sense, that when you don't refresh your technology, if you're using old routers and switches, if you're using old machines that can't handle their job, and don't even allow our operators who have already developed a way to manage all of the devices centrally from the cloud, if they can't even push that to your laptop because it is so old, that's not good. So General Brown actually sent a note out to the MAGCOM commanders saying, hey, MAGCOM business, I want you to prioritize your spend. I want us to take care of our airmen. Having a 4-star general actually care about something that deep into the user experience was pretty exciting. General Kelly from ACC, same thing. CCRIs are commander's business. DoD CIO for the first time saying, hey guys, We noticed that maybe you, even after all of the spend that you put into your fiscal year 24 POM, we'd like you to spend even more in these areas. We haven't seen folks in the DoD flexing those muscles in the past to say, no, I know you have spent even more on cyber and IT, which of course warms my heart because in my opinion, we've been underspending for a very long time. But to then say, I want you to do even more. That has been pretty exciting. And then finally, data and AI. Again, really excited about the partnership in theater, the dynamic targeting data fabric. We're going to crush this thing. Where's Frank Hudson? All right. Frank and Thunder have been right at the center of this. So we have a lot of technology that we can adopt. We have a lot of work to do. But we are recognizing how important it is to be able to speed data. We're taking more risk with how we adopt technology. And so these are some of the things that we are getting after with data and AI. How many folks have heard Jay Bonsi speak or seen the roadmap before? See how green this audience is. I could see a couple in the front row. Probably not a whole lot of folks. Okay, a couple of folks over here. So our secretary coming into office, as he was developing his operational imperatives, he asked, what are the core capabilities that we really need to put in place to win the China fight? Now, our strategy dives into these core capabilities and makes sure that these core capabilities are funded. But these are the core capabilities. And as we go out and we develop our roadmaps, these are the things that we have to make sure that we are bringing to the fight. So you heard a lot about zero trust in our women's cyber panel the other day. And zero trust, of course, there are still different, for the technologists in the room, we'll acknowledge that there are different understandings of what zero trust is and how do we achieve this bold vision in the department. It is absolutely the concept and the strategy and the destination journey, however we want to put it, that we need. I've been really excited actually about how much alignment we have on this topic and how excited people are. I was sitting in planning choices 6 months to a year ago, and I was pretty floored. We're talking about all of these things that we need for the future fight, the jets we need, the munitions that we need, all of these things. And guess what's at the top of the list? Zero trust. So that's pretty exciting for a technology gal to see that the thing that we most need for the future fight is something in the cyber and IT community, and that people understand, even if they don't understand the tech, they understand that this concept and the roadmap to this concept means that I can fight in that one environment with my joint partners and my allies, that maybe I don't need 22 different networks at USAFE, that maybe I can collapse Five Eyes in the next 2 years, maybe I can collapse Unclass and Secret in the next 5, maybe I don't need something called MPE because I can tag my data and I can just make sure that the right people have access to what they need. And all of these things are resonating within our warfighting leaders. I was so thrilled hearing our PACAF DCOM yesterday sounding like both a CIO and a warfighter and a PACAF warfighter. And I told him that. I love when people can speak both languages so fluently, and we're having more and more of that. And I think as much as we can rise that tide, we've got a real shot getting this done. But these are some of the things that we're focused on. Of course, part of our Zero Trust roadmap, and I believe we have published this as well as our Zero Trust strategy. There's also the DoD Zero Trust strategy that we link into. But the pathways to cloud, the SD-WAN, the data fabric, ICAM, hybrid and edge cloud, those are all also nested under that Zero Trust strategy. And right now, we are running as fast as we can on ICAM as the foundation for that. And we are looking at how do we develop that enterprise stack that everything can connect to? How do we assess and fund the things that need to hook in for identity? And then also we have an alligator pretty close to the boat on audit. So we're actually spending a lot of time too looking at how do we do this for our financial systems and bring those into the fold. So ICAM, we expect to have a number of solutions. I won't say a number of solutions, but a number of progressive steps toward our solution this year. I expect us to be able to grow pretty fast next year. And we're putting all the things in place for that now. For SD-WAN, Our ABMS digital infrastructure team has been pinned the rose, and we expect to make a decision on the way forward in February, and from there, off to the races. It makes me pretty excited that our secretary can speak very intelligently about SD-WAN, and more of our senior leaders are understanding that this is the technology that will allow us to send data from anywhere to anywhere, well, one of the technologies, whether we're talking about satellites, aerial networks, land, sea, undersea, and to help us to break out from some of the constructs that, quite frankly, now are not making us more secure, but are throttling us in the things that we're trying to do, even when we have the bandwidth that we need. And then, of course, we don't want to forget about core services also in the strategy, just working. We want people to just know that their core services are there. We want to be able to hold people accountable when they're not. We want to make sure that they're resourced so that they can be held accountable. And of course, workforce automation, you can have the best tech in the world if you're still using the old processes. We're just not there. We've actually had a lot of really great progress with RPA, and a number of airmen actually saying, we were joking about this early on, people get nervous when you talk about automation, but we had a big subset of airmen that jokingly were saying, "Dear AI robots, please come take this part of my job." And it was pretty fun. And actually, our vice chief got involved in a challenge to ask folks to go after things like automating work orders, and in some cases, automating moving data from some place to the horrible PowerPoint that they had to put together every week to update someone. And some of these too also created some healthy dialogue for, well, maybe we shouldn't be creating PowerPoints every week. We have a huge investment in Office 365. We have dashboarding technology. Maybe we don't have to have people doing this manual process of moving data that can simply be clicked on a link to see what the latest is. And double that down by most of the software that we build. We're actually starting to leverage robotic process automation and specifically bots to look at what is that insane process that is going through with this system, so that for a period of time, someone, for instance, who is trying to help an airman PCS, one of the most painful and stressful times in your career as an airman. Sorry, guys. Are the slides still up? Okay. All right. So that at one of the most stressful times in your life, you're not going through touching 10 systems and you got to say what your shoe size is again for the 20th time since the system couldn't hold that. It's just insane what we ask folks again. But starting out with bots, I'll acknowledge not the right way, but it shows you what is the process that's happening today. It starts the dialogue of what should it actually be. And we've made a pretty good investment in overhauling the PCS process the right way. And I expect within the next 6 months or so, we'll be able to actually field that tied to our financial system. So a couple people are clicking their heels together in the back. And let's see. All right. So I wanted to make sure that we have plenty of time to talk about whatever you want to. So I'll give you a heads up that the next thing that we're going to do is go to questions. You can ask a question or you can just throw out a topic that you want me to chat about. I didn't give you an update on ITAS yet. I'm sure that will come up. We talked a little bit about Zero Trust. I'm sure there's other topics that you really want to hear. I'm going to put the next list of topics in your hands, so get ready to send in your questions. But this is a message that I like to repeat over and over again. We need everybody in the fight. We need our industry partners to be really honest and open with us and continue to give us feedback. I actually love events like this for that purpose. I get to have drinks with a lot of different people who can just walk up and say, hey, I noticed this problem, or it would be so great if you got these guys together to talk about doing things maybe this way. I think it's very good awareness, and I appreciate all the candor on things that we might be able to solve together in the near term. We need our airmen and guardians of all ranks to keep pushing hard. General Brown tells people run until apprehended. It's great advice. Please do. We really need the whole joint community. One thing that came up in my travels, and this is a safe room, right? We'll share with Army and Navy. But one of the things that came up in my travels too is that we're not always so great at taking care of each other, unfortunately, when it comes to IT. Um, so if and I hope that when we are the executive agent in the Air Force that we're taking good care of folks, but we definitely need to make sure that no matter who's in charge of the IT and no matter who's making the request, that we're providing that support. We prioritize different things differently. I know Navy prioritizes float more so than land, but if Navy's our service provider, we're on land and in the air. Army prioritizes mobile comms, but we need in garrison and in the air. And so I think understanding these things too, and really having each other's backs in every way, even the things that maybe at the time we don't understand are as important to the folks where we're sharing, that's another huge thing too. And that's something I've been chatting with my fellow CIOs about. But this is, one team, one fight. It's absolutely true. I love the Avengers analogy, but, everybody brings something different to the fight. Everybody brings some point of diversity of thought that we need. So keep it coming. And I tap danced long enough to give you guys a chance to put in questions. So let's let them fly.
Thank you, ma'am. The first question from the audience. The Air Force Concept Development and Management Office has worked hard but made limited progress to deliver improved enterprise MPE capability. What can the Air Force CIO, combatant commanders, other services, and possibly industry do to help move the MPE forward?
All right. So literally before I walked in here, I was on the phone with John Sherman, the DoD CIO, who had just come back from a meeting in Canada where the MPCO team had briefed the Canadians on kind of where we are in the process. I think that, and really, John was happy with the progress. But I think that we recognize that there's a lot here that we need to be working together in terms of communicating kind of where things connect, and that ultimately, you heard me say earlier, that within 5 years, we don't want to have to be talking about something like MPE. We want to have a collapsed environment where we have data that is tagged, we know who needs to have access to that data, and we can just go. We don't need to have all of these different environments. So I think the team is trying very hard to meet needs, but I do think that in 5 years, we're going to be in a different place. We are going to bring together the stakeholders. This is something that's been discussed within DoD CIO. We are going to bring together the COCOMs and some of our allied partners to do a little bit of a show and tell, give people a common update on exactly where we are, what hooks into it, and also look at where things have moved forward. What things have happened since we made the decision to go down this particular architectural path. I will tell you in my DAF CIO hat right now, I fully support the MPCO team, and I am absolutely cheering them on for success. But I think that we absolutely have to look at the roadmap. We have to make sure that we're still on the right path. We need to look at where we need to pivot. We need everybody to be on the same page, and we need to understand where the puck has gone since we undertook this path a couple years ago. Don't soundbite me on this, guys.
Thank you, ma'am. Our audience this afternoon is being a little shy, so while we're waiting for them to send additional questions into the email address on the screen, if one of our more bold audience members would like to stand up and ask their question.
All right. And we can also play Whose Line Is It Anyway? You can say 2 words and I'll riff. All right.
So is there anything you can talk to the junior ROTC folks in the room about what they should be looking for and doing for their future?
Absolutely. Where are you guys? You're all over the place, right? Right back here? All right. So what I'll say to you is you're stepping into the coolest, most worthy mission on the planet. Just we have incredible people doing great things. I've worked in a lot of different places in my career, and I will tell you that this is family, and that family extends pretty far. Just really incredible people brought together by that common belief and that common desire for outcomes. Also tell you, be vocal. have confidence in yourself that you are bringing a new perspective to the mission. And when you see a better way to do something, go for it. Tell your superior officer you're going to do it, find a couple of other buddies that have the same problem, get them on board too. And if your boss won't help, get their boss to help. But you absolutely have so much to bring to this fight from the day that you step in the door. So please remember that, keep that with you, and remind the next group of folks when they come in to bring that fresh perspective and run. But we need you in the fight. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for the question. All right, who else is brave? All right, I've never left a crowd speechless before, so. So I'll give you kind of the nuances here. So this is something that we've known we need to do for a really long time that we have not gotten after, despite people buying parts on eBay, despite knowing that the sundown was coming, despite knowing that fines are coming even for not modernizing. What's different this year are two things. At least within the Department of the Air Force, our IMSC commander has said, this is my top priority for fiscal year 23. And it's especially his top priority for fiscal year 23 because among the CIOs and General Skinner over at DISA, we are aware that our goal as the department right now is to sunset all of this by March of 23. Why? Because we don't have a follow-on contract right now. And so there is some level of, well, we have to. Will we get it all done by March of 2023? Probably not. We're probably going to have some sort of something that happens after that point. But it will look very bad for teams that haven't made some progress, that haven't gotten some money, that haven't gotten some advocacy, not for the teams themselves, but for folks that are funded. They know that it's a priority. Commanders know that it's a priority. And again, IMSC, our guys are saying, are actually in communication pretty regularly. I need this much by this day. And in my travels, I'm hearing that's going pretty well. If there are other places that aren't aware of this, I think everybody here is aware of this and on it because I was just visiting with everyone. And this is one of the priority theaters for that. I don't know what Army and Navy are doing specifically, but I do know that they have the same deadline and that they are very serious about getting after it. But this is a base by base problem, and every base is different. Every base is going to have a different level of investment that it needs to dig out from it. And so this is another place where, all of our warfighters, all of our comm experts are diving in and meeting the mission need, and we're throwing some money at it. All right.
Ma'am, we do now have some audience questions here in the back, if you'd like to take one from the AV stand.
Sure.
Okay, so our next question, what can industry do to help accelerate the ABMS transition to JADC2, and how confident are you that the DoD can achieve a common data model?
So, very confident. Can't give you a timeline on that yet. We'll see. But what I will say is that we've had to have a learning process on this. I mean, you guys have seen the learning process. And I think about 6 months to a year ago, everybody kind of said, hey, enough is enough. And all of the chiefs got into a room and said, hey, we're going to do this together. And since that time, I have seen really incredible cooperation right down to, for instance, Air Force and Navy saying this is going to be the standard for our aerial networks. We have our folks attending each other's deep dives. I know our 5-7, General Q Keynote, was just at the week-long Army Convergence I'll say implementation planning, next steps. And it was so important to him to be there that he missed Corona. For the folks that don't know what Corona is in the room, I mean, that's when all of our 4-stars get together with our chief and our secretary, myself and a couple of the 3-stars. But it is, I mean, it is the big dance. And it was so important to our community, to our secretary, to our chief, to our 5-7, that we were there working with Army on this joint strategy. We are zero trust, and all of those things that underpin zero trust, the SD-WAN, the identity, the data strategy, those are all things that we're working together too. And those are things where, you know, we don't necessarily have to start together, but we have to know, meet me here and keep telling me when we're going to meet. Because things happen along the path, especially in the DoD, but I see some pretty good progress coming toward that end. I also see, so I know some of the folks in the room have been awarded a contract for digital infrastructure. The roadmap swirled for a little while. I want to say 2 years ago or so. This has been one of our secretary's top priorities. And he gets in the chili. He really does, because he cares. And I remember his first year being in so many meetings where he would say, I want to see the roadmap. I want to see the plan. I want more detail. Double click there. And it forced the team to really look at that model and to really reach across services. And at this point, I would say we have a pretty good plan. And a lot of it is pretty compelling and pretty exciting, and unfortunately ungodly classified, a lot of it. But I am very hopeful. I see some really great partnerships happening. I see some incredible folks at the engineering and technical levels coming together, getting in rooms, rolling up their sleeves, agreeing on things. I see industry coming to the table and doing a really good job of either being involved in that initial session or red teaming it or bringing great capabilities to the fight. So to industry, keep doing it. If you're on digital infrastructure, especially keep doing it, because you are officially at the table, officially on the hook to help us do this. And to our joint partners, you know, let's keep working together. I think we got some good momentum. Let's keep it up.
Thank you, ma'am. We have time for one more question. Can you share any updates on the Air Force's Enterprise IT as a Service Wave 2?
All right, I knew that one was coming. Okay, so Wave 2. I think most of the room probably knows we're in draft. We're going back and forth. Probably the stickiest point that I've been asked about. So first of all, so Wave 2 is about it's about campus modernization. It's about making sure that whenever I go to any air base, the Guardians and the airmen on that base, they can connect, grabbing whatever signal they can connect, and that they have that signal anywhere on the base. And largely that when there can be wireless, there is wireless. And whatever we need for the mission, they can connect. So that is the underlying, that is the capability. We need to be able to connect on our bases. And also, we need to have contingency operations. We need to understand the difference between bases and where are we staying behind to fight, and where is a little simpler. And there is a big difference, of course, between our PACAF bases and also our PACAF bases, depending on where they are, our USAFE bases and our CONUS bases. There's a lot of diversity there. How we go about it, we're definitely taking input from industry and have ongoing discussions on what the actual strategy is. I know a number of the folks in the room were asking, are we really going to do this base by base? And we're not going to do a winner take all. I will share that. But we are not going to have 180 different architectures. And so what we're doing right now is figuring out what are the guardrails and what are the middle ground. At the very least, I think most of the folks in the room know that if we're talking about connectivity, that connectivity has to hit the SD-WAN solution. That connectivity has to hit whatever the future is of gateways and boundaries, if we have gateways and boundaries. And so we have to have a very agile model where that connectivity can integrate with those things, where we have constant compatibility, where it's going to support our needs for JADC2. We have to figure out how to really make sure that that is written down in our procurement, that we hire the right partners to help us get it forward. And I also want to make sure that we have the right incentive structure in there. And I will share that having been on the other side of this table, probably more often than on this side of the table, I've seen how much hungrier folks are when you have to have really great user experience in this tranche of bases to earn that next tranche of bases. And I've seen us also make awards that are so big that we can't get out of them, and we have poor performance, and we don't run straight toward what exactly do we need to fix it. And so we want to have great partners. We want to make sure that we have a way to objectively gauge user experience and use KPIs to drive performance. And we want to have really strong performers be able to get more business really quickly. We also understand that we're going to need folks that can stay and fight. And we also understand that there are going to be some bases where, we don't need 99.9999. Although in 2022, it really actually should not be as hard as we are making it today. So that is the update on Wave 2. And we still expect to award it this fiscal year. And we probably will slip a couple of times as we go forward and continue to chat with industry and make it right. And as I also engage with the PEO. But this is a huge thing, and our secretary and our chief are actually regularly asking also about when are we going to get this capability out. And I know that our airmen and guardians can't get it soon enough. So we're going to push fast, but we're going to make sure that we do this in a way that's integrated and can drive the capability we really need. So thank you guys so much.
Well, I've had the honor and privilege to personally be partnered with the leadership in the CIO, Air Force CIO office with you, ma'am. And we're excited about what's going on. I think you're leading the department in this area. And as they say, on behalf of the men and women who serve in uniform, go faster.
Amen. Trying hard.
So Maloha for all the time you spent with us this week. We really appreciate it. Not only is our keynote today, but an amazing panel Tuesday night, very informative. And you've been quoted a couple times since then in other forums. So thank you as we do this, as we go forward. So as we are with all our speakers this week, we're going to give a donation in your name to the Friends of the Windward Wounded Warrior organization. We know how much that means to you. And we know how much the men and women who serve in uniform mean to you, because you always get out there and see them when you're wherever you go. So thank you so much. And so on behalf of AFCEA International and AFCEA Hawaii, the coveted 37th coin to represent Techno Indo-Pacific 2022. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, team, it's hard to believe, but it's time that we say aloha. And what a great week we've had. We appreciate all your personal time and the effort that you put into this. I was speaking to one of my teammates in the back there. I think he's been with this event for almost 20 years, and he said this was the best. And so there's so many people to thank for that as we go forward. And of course, we had the two events this year. The one in April when we talked about from data to dominance, and then this effort, or this meeting where we talked data to dominance through partnership. And that was clearly the message with all our leaders who came out here and spent time with us to speak to us. And it was really, really exciting. So there's so many, as I said, folks to thank for being here. But let me call my wing lady up here with me, Linda. Thank you so much to AFCEA Hawaii for all that you and your team have done there. And to put this on is not easy, as you can imagine. But this team had over 200 volunteers this week, making this operate and go as smoothly as it did. So I want to personally thank you and give you the coin of excellence from the CEO, President of AFCEA. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm honored to accept this on behalf of all of APSIA Hawaii and the team, because it's the whole team effort working with all of your team at International to make this happen. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And you know, I never go to any of these meetings that I don't recognize all of you out there from industry. We would not be here without you. Your sponsorship at this symposium has been just first class. The displays downstairs, so much effort was put into it. I tried to get to as many booths as I can. We just need to add another day there for us to get out there. General Miles, thank you. I saw you down on the floor there with the team today, so thanks so much as we go through that. And I have to say that I really do want to, I don't know if Mark's here and the team, but I have to thank the Hilton Hawaiian Village, who just bent over backwards, took our feedback from April and has just really made us feel very welcome, streamlined many of the processes, and that has meant a lot to us. So I will thank them as well. Thank you, sir, back there. Okay, so we've been talking about our coveted 37th TechNet Indo-Pacific coin. We are looking forward to TechNet Indo-Pacific 38. Mark your calendars, 7 to 9 November, and it will be bigger and better than this one. Go to our sites. We have so many great events going on, so many phenomenal symposiums, webinars, activities that we do. And another one, mark your calendar for, especially for this theater, very important, is West in February. I don't have the exact dates, but it's on the site. And so we really focus on the maritime mission at that one with our Marines, Navy, and Coast Guard. So hope to see you there as well. Safe travels back home, and thanks for everything you did for us this week to make this a success. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Knausenberger. Thank you all for attending this event. Just two more admin notes. We're not quite finished yet. At 1300, there will be a Solutions for Enterprise Procurement by NASA in the Mid-Pacific Conference Center that will count for CEU credits. Also, if you've not had your parking validated, there is a station in the back right corner of this room as I'm pointing at it. That will be there available until it gets taken down. Finally, the JROTC and senior ROTC cadets will meet up in the front right side of the auditorium. There'll be an opportunity for a picture and to meet with the keynote speaker. This concludes our keynote. Thank you for your attendance, and mahalo.